Throughout Q1 of 2026, we've certainly seen demand holding across the Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and the Hunter region. But we are seeing that strong demand doesn't automatically mean higher or increased rental returns. It's just the prices are holding at where they have been. With tenants, we're definitely seeing there's interest from tenants, but the tenants are being much more considered in the applications, the properties that they're looking at. They're taking the time to look at location, to look at the presentation of the home. What are the finishes throughout the property? Are there any benefits such as solar, air conditioning? All of those sorts of things are being much more considered by our tenants. Yeah, so the pricing growth has been quite modest throughout the quarter. We're seeing around a 1 to 3% growth in the rental return. And the properties that are well presented and priced correctly are certainly seeing high interest and high level of inquiry, which results in a high number of applications. So I'd say that this environment throughout Q1 has resulted in landlords having to be much more actively involved in ensuring compliance for their properties. With longer notice periods having to be given to tenants, it means that we've got a longer lead time to prepare the changeover of tenancy with marketing, but also for the tenants, they've got a bit of notice that the property is going to be available in 2 months' time as opposed to 2 weeks' time. So it's meaning that tenants have got time to look around, to consider their options. For landlords, it's just that process is a little bit more considered. Yeah, so with that inner city apartment market, we're talking about that region from Wickham right through to Newcastle East. We've seen the strongest growth in the 1-bedroom apartments. They're sitting around $640 to $650 per week, with some of the really ideally located, well-presented apartments hitting right up towards $700 per week, which is a really strong growth when you're looking at the previous quarters of 2025. The 2-bedroom apartment market, we're seeing they're sitting more around the $800 to $820 on average, with the newer, recently released apartments going sort of mid-800. There is certainly more competition with new builds being released, but also with the changeover of tenancies in the more established apartments. They are all ideally located, so when you're talking about being close to the light rail, close to the harbour and a walk to the beach, there's a whole block of new apartments right next to a block of established apartments, but both are seeing that equal demand. And there is a high availability, so that means that there is tenant choice and they can take the time to go and consider the location, the presentation and the finishes of those apartments, which is something for landlords to consider. So 3-bedroom apartments, we're definitely seeing the harbourfront, beachfront apartments that offer that space, that lifestyle for a young family or an older family or even housemate. We're certainly seeing that it's a steady but more considered demand because it is that higher price point, around $1,300 a week. But for the ideally located ones, we're even achieving prices closer to $1,600 or up to $1,800 for furnished per week. And that's really for that lifestyle of coming home, parking the car and walking to everything from work to dinner, to exercising on the harbourfront walks. In the apartment market, getting the pricing and the positioning right from day one is really critical in the competitive environment. So throughout the first quarter of the year, on the ground, we're certainly seeing the difference between a top performing versus an underperforming. The top performing being they're priced correctly from day one. It's an actively managed leasing campaign. So we're listening to tenant feedback. We're really assessing the quality of the applications we're receiving and having active conversations with our landlords about, is that the person that they're looking for? How can we appeal to their ideal tenant? Versus the underperforming where perhaps they're not priced correctly, the presentation's not where it should be. Landlords really needing to realise that not all management is equal and you need to have that proactive approach. It's not just a matter of put it online, secure a tenant and off it comes. It's looking at what's the feedback from our open homes, what's the attendance like, and are we seeing the type of tenant that these landlords are wanting in their home, are we seeing them come along? So I would say for landlords who are planning for their investment property for the rest of 2026, you need to be well informed. You need to have a proactive property manager that's giving you a guide that is looking at actual results and discussing what your individual goals are for your property when they're making the plan for advertising. Small improvements can make a really big impact, whether that's updates to your property, whether it's updates to your photos and your advertising listing, and really making sure that you're going online with a true representation of what your property has to offer so that you're appealing to the right tenants. Making sure that, for example, at Movable, we have data-led insights where, constantly watching the rental market, listening to tenants and, just discussing and collaborating as a team. And you want to make sure that your management is being looked after and considered properly before it's going online. So I think strategy is so important so that firstly, you can make sure that your property manager is aware of your goals and that your end result is aligned so that you're both headed in the same direction. And that could be that you have a plan to sell your investment property in the next 12 to 18 months. It could be that you have a plan to hold on long term to your investment property. And that's really important that you're aligned with your property manager when making a plan for that strategy. And that comes into presentation of the home, the pricing of the weekly rent when you're advertising, and also the tenants that you're putting into the property if they're looking to have somewhere long term and wanting to renew in 12 months' time, and that's important to you as a landlord. All of that needs to be part of your strategy. So for landlords, we're really wanting to look at maximising the return and reducing their risk. So going online with a property that's priced correctly and presented well will minimise vacancy. If you're dropping any of those steps or you haven't got a proper plan in place, you do risk long-term vacancy and lost money, and really making sure that you're planning for a strong return for 2026. If you own an investment property and you're unsure of your strategy for 2026, or you don't know who your property manager is, now is the time to make the move. Your property calls and it wants better management. Make the move to Movable.